touched me, and now I am no longer the same. He touched me, oh, he touched me, and all the joy that floods my soul. Something happened, and now I know he touched me and made me whole. Since I've been possessed, since he cleansed and made me whole, I will never cease to praise him. I'll shout it all eternity rolls. He touched me, oh, he touched me, and all the joy that floods my soul. Something happened, and now I know he touched me and made me whole. He touched me, oh, he touched me, and all the joy that fills my soul. Something happened, and now I know he touched me and made me whole.
Amen. Good morning, everybody. Very good to see all of you. Everybody can hear me okay? All right, great. So, we got Halloween coming up around the corner here. I really love how the church is getting involved with taking the holiday back for Jesus, all right? Because I don't know about you, I'm not going to sit at home. We're going to take the holiday back for God, and we're going to have a good time together. I love that. So I was going to dress up. I'm dressing up as the Pope this year, but Bonnie said she didn't think it'd be a good idea if I wore that here. But we do have a picture of the lovely Layla, and we're to show you what she's going to be this year. And she picked that all by herself. I'm very, very proud of her. It took no coaxing from mom and dad. She said she wanted to be an angel this year. So we'll see at the trunk or treat coming up next weekend. So today we're going to talk about, I'd broken this message in two different parts when I brought it into High on Jesus. So we're going to be in part two, and it's titled From Rock Bottom to the Mountaintop. And the whole story covered the entire story of Joseph in the Bible. And so sometimes I have to go into a lot of detail. I know a lot of people that we're talking to at High on Jesus may never even have heard of some of these Bible stories before. But I know you guys are veterans. You guys, I'm sure everyone in here knows the story of Joseph. So I'm just kind of going to give us a little recap and bring us up to the point of where we're going to be talking about today. And so, again, I assume a lot of you know the story of Joseph. He was Dad's favorite, right? And Dad was giving him a coat, showing him a little extra attention. And unfortunately, Joseph's other brothers didn't like that too much, right? So at some point along the story, they plotted against him. Joseph started having a dream. God was putting dreams in his heart of what the future was going to look like, but his brothers didn't like that for a variety of reasons. So they plotted against him, wind up selling this poor little boy into a foreign country. So now he's ripped away from his family. He goes to a foreign land where nobody speaks his language. I can only imagine what that must have felt like. But yet, He stays faithful to God. He keeps on praying. He keeps on believing. And God moves in his life and allows him to be sold to one of the higher members of Egyptian culture then. His name was Potiphar. He was a leader. And what happened is God was blessing Joseph. He was helping him rise to the top. And with doing the next right thing every day, now all of a sudden Joseph is in charge of Potiphar's home. He's running the whole entire thing. Probably had a nice position at that point. He wasn't like the other slaves. He was enjoying some nice benefits. God was looking out for him. But then, again, through no fault of his own, suddenly Potiphar's wife had a hankering for Joseph. I guess Joseph must have looked nice and handsome back then, right? And so his wife was trying to get Joseph to come into the bedroom with her. Joseph said, "I'm having no part of that. I'm a man of God. I would never do that to my boss," right? But of course, she grabs his coat, grabs his clothes off him one day. He runs out of the room, and she cries out and goes to her husband and says, "Hey, Joseph tried to come in and sleep with me while you were gone." And so, of course, Potiphar becomes enraged. And so what does he do? He has Joseph thrown in jail. Now, once again, where he thought God was taking him, this dream that God put in his heart isn't happening. Right now he finds himself in another dark place. But where we ended in the previous messages is God still showed up. He still showed Joseph favor, and before you know it, all of a sudden Joseph was down there and he was running the whole jail that he was at. Right? He again started rising to the top, and that brings us to where we're going to talk about today in Genesis chapter 40. So before I get into that verse, I want to lay out what's happening. So Joseph's in jail. He's been there for some time. He seems to be running the show down there for the correction officers. And he wakes up one day and he sees this cupbearer and this baker that used to serve Pharaoh, and Pharaoh had them both thrown in jail. And so they seemed real troubled that morning, and I'll go over it quick, but basically they both had dreams and they didn't know what the meanings of them were. And Joseph said, "Well, God, gives me a few abilities in my life. Why don't you tell me the dream and see if God can help me figure it out for you?" And so the cupbearer's dream is there was 3 branches and there was grapes over them, and he squeezed the grapes into Pharaoh's cup, and he didn't know what that meant. And Joseph said, "Well, I got some good news for you. That means in 3 days, Pharaoh's going to restore you back to your position. He's going to bring you out of jail. You're going to be his cupbearer once again. But hey, I got a favor for you. Please don't forget about me." All right, when you go up there, make sure you tell Pharaoh that I was able to help decipher this dream for you. Make sure he knows that I helped you out and I'm in here for no reason. Maybe I can get out of here too. And the baker has a dream, but it takes a little different direction. His dream was 3 baskets of baked goods that he was carrying, and all of a sudden birds started attacking the baskets, pecking everything out, and Joseph's like, Got some bad news for you. It's not looking too good for you. That means in 3 days, Pharaoh's going to take you out and have you executed. And lo and behold, 3 days later, that's where we're at in these verses that are up behind me. It's Genesis chapter 40, 21 through 23, and then the first part of the next chapter 41. Says, "He restored the chief cupbearer to his position, so that he once again put the cup into Pharaoh's hand. But he impaled the chief baker, just as Joseph had said to them in his interpretation. The chief cupbearer, however, did not remember Joseph. He forgot him." And the beginning of the next chapter starts, "And when 2 full years had passed, Pharaoh had a dream." I try to put myself in these guys' shoes when I read the Bible. I invite you to do the same thing. Like, try to imagine it coming to life as we're reading it. And so can you imagine everything that Joseph had been through up to that point? His brothers betraying him, being sold as a slave. Now he's in jail for absolutely no reason, but yet now he thinks that this could be his way out. He was able to help this guy out, and it happened exactly as planned, and he's like, all right, the cupbearer is going to tell Pharaoh, he's going to get me out of here. This is it. And day after day goes by. He's got to come today. And then day after day goes by. And he quickly realizes that the guy must have forgot about him. And then I love what God does here. Then all of a sudden it's just like, and then 2 years later, like, we just breeze over two full years. And I think we just kind of breeze over it too when we're reading it, like, oh, and 2 years later, like, Joseph must have been doing great that whole entire time, man. He must have had a huge smile on his face every day. He was praising the Lord, doing everything that he needed to do. I think it would have been great if Joseph got the opportunity to write this part. He probably would have been like, day 276 of my captivity. God forgot about me again. He's got me down here in this place with no running water, probably raw sewage running through the whole entire facility, right? Imagine what that must have smelled like, what that must have been like. And now these correction officers can't even do their job. I guess I got to come and take care of everything down here. I got to fix it all for them. I can't wait till later tonight where I get a plate of slop and I get to get chained back to the wall and lie in my nice bed of concrete. All right. For whatever reason, God chose to not put all those details in there, right? But I can promise you, every single day, he didn't wake up with a smile on his face. I'm sure there were days where he woke up and he didn't feel like doing anything. I'm sure he had a few days where he felt like God forgot about him and God, why is this happening to me? And now I'm stuck here again. I did nothing wrong, right? I love real. Right, like give me some real people in here that know what I'm talking about, that wake up every single day, and I don't wake up every single day with a smile on my face. Sometimes I wake up and I don't feel like doing anything. I don't feel like going to work. I don't feel like showing up for when everybody needs me and people are calling me and relying on me, right? But what I do love about this message and Joseph's story is I'm sure he went through those same exact feelings. But what happened? He showed up anyways. Right? Every single day, I'm sure he woke up, God, I don't feel like doing this. I don't know why you have me down here in this position that I'm in, but I'm asking you to help give me the strength to do what you're calling me today. He prayed through it anyways. Right? God, seems like nothing's going on. We're way far from the dream you gave me years ago, but I don't know. I'm just going to believe that you're going to help me to give it all I got every day. I'm going to show up. I'm going to run this jail to the best of my ability, and someday the door is going to open. It brings me to my first point. Real people will happily admit that some days they just don't feel like it, right? But they show up anyways, right? They pray through it anyways. They give it all they got anyways. I don't feel like going to this job and seeing the same people that annoy me every single day. But God, I know you're going to help me. You got me here for some reason, right? This is where I'm at in the story, God. I'm going to show up anyways. God, I don't feel like being the strong person today. Everybody's relying on me. Everyone's looking to me for help. But I don't know how I'm going to be that representation you want me to be. But help me. Give me the strength, God. Give me the strength. I'm going to pray through it today. God, I don't feel like doing anything. I'm so tired. I feel like the weight of the world's on my shoulders sometimes, right? I don't have the energy, God, but I'm going to give it all I got today anyways. God, help me to give me that strength that only you can provide. Help me to do what you're calling me to do at this present moment or where I'm at in my story. So, just like it said, Pharaoh had a dream there. Pharaoh does have a dream. For time's sake, we probably won't go into the whole thing, but it had to do with 7 fat cows, and then all of a sudden 7 skinny cows came and ate them, and then there was another 7 and 7 parallel, and he was trying to get his wise men and his people on his staff to help figure out the dream because it was troubling him, and nobody could do it. Nobody could figure out what it meant, and he said, is there not anybody here who could help me out? And finally, God allowed that to trigger the cupbearer's mind, and he said, oh, wait a minute. I got you a guy. I forgot a couple years ago, me and the baker had some dreams, and he was able to translate them, and lo and behold, it was exactly as he said. And Pharaoh said, well, you better get that guy up here ASAP. I want to talk to him. That's what we're going to come to this next set of scripture in Genesis 41, verses 15 through 16. It says, Pharaoh said to Joseph, I had a dream, and no one can interpret it. But I had heard it said of you that when you hear a dream, that you can interpret it. "I cannot do it," Joseph replied to Pharaoh, "but God will give Pharaoh the answer that he desires." Man, that must have took some courage for that to be the first interaction he had with Pharaoh. Right? It's almost like you would think that he would pick that time to like flex on everybody. And as soon as Pharaoh brought him up and he said, "Oh, I heard that you can interpret dreams." "Well, yes, sir. I can get the job done. I could do that, no problem. Let me give you exactly what you want, Pharaoh, so you can get me out of jail because I'm not supposed to be there. And I got you. I got you covered, God. Or I got you covered, Pharaoh. It's all me." Right? But that's not what he said. Wasn't the time to show Pharaoh what he was made of. See, because Joseph learned a valuable lesson along his story that he'd been on so far. As Joseph gets crushed time and time again, as he has all these defeats and all these things that have happened to him for no apparent reason in his life, it started to teach him some valuable lessons over the years. And he's learned that I can't get through any of these downfalls. I can't get through these obstacles and all these bad things happening to me by myself. Right? I've had to learn to rely on God over these years because I know that nothing Joseph could do could get me out of these situations that I was in. So I got taught a long time ago, like, God, there's nothing I'm going to be doing to get out of this situation. I don't know how the average person will make it through this, but God, you're going to have to help me get through it because I can't do this myself. God, all the abilities and strengths, and you promoted me in these different places, in Potiphar's house and in the jail. I know it's nothing that I did. I just showed up every single day, and you're the one that blessed that. You're the one that gave me those gifts. All the good things I have in my life are because of you, Lord. And so that's the first thing out of his mouth. Without hesitation, he answers, "Actually, it's not me, Pharaoh, right? But God is going to give you the answer that you desire. God gave me a gift, and I'll see what I can do to help you out with that." I jumped in the message to a page out of the 12 and 12. Those of you who don't know what that is, that's the AA step book. And of course, a lot of the messages, I kind of do parallels between some of the stuff in the AA books and the Bible. And just so everyone knows, it's actually the same exact thing when you read it. Right? It's all anything in the AA books and the 12 and 12s. They actually came from the Oxford group, was a Christian organization that created the 12 steps directly from the Bible, and basically the principles, everything Jesus talks about and everything that sobriety teaches is actually one and the same. And so I wasn't sure if I should read it to you today, but I actually thought it really speaks to anyone, not just anyone that struggles with alcoholism or addiction. So this is what it says in page 21 out of the 12 and 12. It says, "We perceive that only through utter defeat are we able to take our first steps toward liberation and strength. Our admissions of personal powerlessness finally turn out to be firm bedrock upon which happy and purposeful lives may be built." All right, hearing what they're trying to say there. I hope some people in here know what I'm talking about. Our defeats, the things that we've encountered over our life that the enemy was designing to try to stop us from moving forward, these obstacles that we've encountered with our health, with our family members, with just life in general trying to come at us, they were actually teaching us something. Right? They were driving into us that we can't overcome this stuff ourselves. Right? We need to rely on God to be able to have His strength to help us overcome anything the enemy's throwing to block our path. And I truly believe that anyone in this room that's had a weak moment, that the world might call a weak moment, I'm sure you can look back and figure out that was actually the strongest moment of my life, because that weak moment brought me to the point where I realized that I couldn't do it and that only God could. And just like it's saying right here, this powerlessness, which the world thinks is weak, is actually turns out to be the foundation for a happy and purposeful life. Because we finally realize that it's God that's doing the work and not us. Second point here is, it's a beautiful day when we realize that we can't, but God can. And only then can we take steps toward liberation, strength, and a happy and purposeful life. Excuse me.
You guys with me so far? And I think truly that's what we're all looking for, right, is purpose. We're all searching for a purpose, and I believe purpose is a progression. Sometimes purpose doesn't reveal itself to us all at once. Sometimes God reveals it to us in pieces. And so just like for Joseph, today, right, I don't know what my purpose is, but for Joseph at first his purpose was today it's just being a slave in a foreign country. All right, then his purpose eventually was serving in the jail. And then it turned into doing God's work and helping other people, right? And then it turned into running a country, if you know the rest of the story. And then it turned into saving hundreds of thousands of lives, which we'll get to in a minute. So don't be dismayed if you feel like God still hasn't revealed his total purpose for your life yet. Sometimes it comes in glimpses, right? And sometimes it's God, I'm not sure exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, right? But you have me right here, right now, for this particular moment, right? And this must fit into the greater picture somehow. So I'm just going to do the best I can at this moment. God, I'm going to use your strength in this moment, right, to realize that you're the one working in my life, and I'm going to show up and I'm going to help exactly where you have me planted right here, right now, Lord. See, I believe that some of you know what I'm talking about with this. That you realize that only God can, and I believe you want to share that message with some other people. And so, of course, this is Stewardship Month, and so we're going to talk about that. But I believe that we all have somewhat of a different purpose, but yet part of our purpose is all the same, right? We're here to help others. We're here to pass the message on to people that are struggling, that God can do something in your life for you that you haven't been able to do for yourself up to this point. And God has us all right here in this church together for that exact reason. And so God's calling us, right, to show up and to bloom in the place where we're at this present moment, right, which includes the church, of course, and the things that the church has going on. All right, honoring the call for God for us to tithe every single week and to invest more if we have it into the different missions that not only this church has, but many other places have. And so, since God's got us here, we got to show up where we're at, right? So this is our church. God's putting some amazing things together in this church. Got all kinds of events coming up. I really see a push out there. We're trying to reach the community around us. Trying to reach people who maybe they haven't made it into church yet in their entire life, and we're trying to go out there and show them what God can do in their life and invite them to church every single Sunday. We got to support our church. We need to support the missions of the church. We got some community events coming up. And also want to share with you about, of course, High on Jesus and Hand Up to Victory. Real quick, the High on Jesus is the meetings that we do each week, and we have a family unit that we're creating something amazing going on. We're really showing people like what I believe that they've been missing their whole entire lives, and it's that spiritual connection. All right, we have 50, 60 people a week coming to the meetings. We've been having family events, events every single week, different things that we're doing out in the community to have some good, sober fun together. And then, of course, this church is a key part of Hand Up to Victory. And so I want to make sure it was asked at the last church. Some people still don't know the difference between High on Jesus and Hand Up to Victory. High on Jesus is the meetings that we do to help people out, and Hand Up to Victory is our 501c3 organization. And what we do is we help people that are coming out of jail, they're coming off the streets, they're coming out of a program. They truly want to make a change, but yet they have no resources. They have no one in their family to help them out, no friends, nothing. And typically what happens is the story ends there. They have to go back out into the street. They become hopeless, and the cycle continues over and over again. But God put us in a position to change that. Right? And when this started a few years ago, we started out at helping 50-something people in the first year, and God gave me a vision. It was going to be double that. We were shooting for a goal of 120 people in the second year. We surpassed that, and so God said, let's double that. This year our vision was help 250 people, and I can tell you we're on pace to go way past that already this year. And it doesn't happen without you guys. It doesn't happen without you guys. You guys have been a huge part of this from day one, and I can't thank you enough for that. We have a fundraising event coming up on Sunday, November 14th. I believe the details are in the bulletin. Come see me afterwards. We sent out some invitations as well. So we invite you to be a part of that. And if you can't make it, watch it online, because you're going to see some lives change that night. You're going to hear some stories of some people that this has truly impacted and made a difference in their life. And every single day we're seeing people getting saved. We're seeing people getting closer to God and focusing on their sobriety. We're seeing people move up in the world and get their own places, and their kids restored, and vehicles and jobs that they love. It's just amazing to see God work in people's lives. And so I believe that's all of our purpose, right? Is to pass that hope that God gave us and pass that on to somebody else. And I believe we're all right here, right now, for that exact reason. So, if you know the rest of the story, after Joseph, God helps Joseph to give clarity to Pharaoh's dream, and eventually Pharaoh puts Joseph in charge of everything. And Joseph comes up, the dream is that there's going to be 7 years of famine, Pharaoh, and then there's going to be 7 years of plenty. So here's what you should probably do. You should have the 7 years of plenty. And then there's going to be 7 years of famine after that. And so Joseph's telling Pharaoh, here's what you should do. The 7 years of plenty, you better be stockpiling all kinds of stuff, right? And get that ready to go for when these 7 years of famine come, because there's going to be a lot of people that are starving. And if we don't do that, there's going to be a lot of people in trouble in our country and surrounding countries. And Pharaoh said, well, who better to run the show? You already got the idea. Why don't you do it? And all of a sudden, Joseph sees his dream start to turn into a reality. Now he's second in command, right, of this amazing country. And he does exactly that. The 7 years of plenty, he stockpiles everything, and the 7 years of famine hit. And suddenly, not only are the Egyptians starving, and they have to go to Joseph and get fed, save hundreds of thousands. They don't know the count of how many people got saved through that. But surrounding countries were starving too. And lo and behold, his family that betrayed him years ago found themselves starving too. And so they have to come to Egypt and actually get down in front of Joseph. And suddenly, that dream that God gave him all those years ago turns into a reality of his family bowing down to him. I don't know about you, but I always want to know how long stuff like that took. I always want the details of how long did it take from Joseph's dream until the day that it turned into a reality. And not gonna lie, I've heard a lot of people get this wrong. I've heard many popular pastors say that the Bible doesn't tell you how long it is. Actually, it does. It says that Joseph was 17 when he had the dream, right? And then at 30 years old, Pharaoh put him in charge of everything. That right there is 13 years, right? Then there was 7 good years of famine. 7 good years of plenty. That's 20. And then 2 years into the famine is when his family finally came to see him, and Joseph's dream turned into a reality. God did actually tell us exactly how long that took. That was 22 years from the time that Joseph had that dream until it turned into a reality. 22 years. Some of us pray and God doesn't answer our prayers, and 22 hours later, and we're like, God, you're not showing up. I just prayed earlier this morning, nothing happened at night, what's going on? He was praying and believing for 22 years before it actually happened. This is why I believe that God had to take that long. It was for a reason, right? There was a reason that it took that long, because Joseph had to learn some things along the way so that he could be the man that he needed to be when God finally put him in that position. If he would have rushed the process and made him ruler of Egypt at 17 years old, he might not have learned the things that he needed to handle that. stress. He might not have learned the things that he needed. He might not have been in the mental maturity to understand that they needed to stockpile for 7 years in order to have for the 7 years of famine. It took a while because there were some things he needed to learn along the way in order to be the person that he needed to be when God turned that dream into a reality. A lot of you know my son Jaden, right? And so he's 16 already. And so us in the family, we wanted to bless him, so we all put in together, and we got him a car, a little Honda Civic, and that was about 6 weeks ago, and I haven't seen him since. I've seen him like 3 times in the past six weeks. We're reeling him in a little bit here, though. All right, but I like this because I wanted to bless him. All right, our family wanted to bless him. I want to take care of him. He's my son. I love him more than anything, right? So we wanted to bless him with that car. But what would have happened if we would have blessed him with that same thing 10 years ago? All right, son, you're 6 years old. We're going to give you a car. You can drive yourself to school. Let us know how everything turns out. Probably wouldn't have turned out good for him or anybody else that was on the road on that particular day, right? Why? Because he didn't learn the things that he needed to in order to be the person that he needed to be when we dropped that blessing on him. Right? There are some things that he needed to learn from 6 to 16 in order to be properly prepared for when God opened that door for him to have that vehicle. And so I want you to see something. It's the same blessing, but it's the wrong time. It's the wrong time. Or I would have been doing him a disservice if I would have got him that vehicle at 6 years old instead of making him wait and learn some things until it was the proper time for him to handle it. And so people ask me, like, aren't you worried when you handed him the keys and you saw him drove away that day from the DMV? Like weren't you worried? And I said, actually, no. Why? And no, because we spent from 13 to 15 with him sitting in the passenger seat right next to me and me going over the rules of the road when we were always driving together. Like, son, when we pull up to here, we have the right of way, and so we get to go, or they have the right of way. You got to wait for them. I was teaching him the rules of the road. He was in there getting his learner permit as soon as he turned 15. So from 15 to 16, we had a year for me to drive right next to him, right? And sometimes he would be doing this crazy park job, and I would be like, son, what are you doing? Go pull in this parking lot, and I'm going to teach you some things, right? And we'd spend an hour in there teaching him how to park. But see, my whole point is I knew at that point, after spending a full year driving with him, 2 years before that, teaching him things, he was ready. And he had become the person that he needed to be in order to handle what was dropped on him. And so the third point, sometimes I think if we wonder, like, why are things taking so long to happen, that sometimes the reason why it's taken so long to step into all the things that God has for us is because he needs us to learn the things necessary along the way in order to be who he needs us to be in that moment. I believe that God won't do us the disservice of dropping things on us too early if we're not ready to handle it yet, because he loves us too much for that. Joseph wouldn't have been ready for that kingdom at 17 years old. That's why he had to wait 22 more years after that. He might not have had the right mindset to save all that grain and save all those people at the end. So, of course, I get the job of talking about finances today. So it's always a fun one, but I'm just going to tell you a story of myself, and you might get something out of it. In the very beginning, when me and Bonnie were sober, and we find ourselves, we're trying to do the next right thing every single day. We're trying to get closer to God. We're focusing on our sobriety. We're both working, and yeah, we just had that struggle of always living paycheck to paycheck. And we were going to food pantries. You guys blessed us with some food at the very beginning, and wondering, like, how come we're not progressing? And I had some people in my life that I was talking to because I had a lot of mentors, and I said, how come we're not moving forward? Like, I thought we would have been further ahead at this point. And they all pose the same question. Justin, are you being a good steward with what God gave you? Are you looking at it in the natural and just looking at what the dollars say in the checking account as whether you're going to tithe or not that week? Or are you just going to believe that God's going to honor your faithfulness? That God's going to show up even when you don't have too much to give, and you're going to give it anyways because you trust that God is going to increase you. And slowly but surely, God started teaching us some things over the years, and we were blessed to see finances increase a little bit. And so I'm going to put that back to everyone in here. I'm going to ask you a question to think about. Are all of us being a good steward with the things that God gave us? Right? Are we being a good steward with the finances that God has blessed us with? Are we being a good steward with our time? That's a big one. Are we getting caught up in a lot of distractions or a lot of TV watching, or are we being a good steward with that time and seeing where we can give back and invest back into different places and services? Right? Are we being a good steward supporting ministries and the different things this church has to offer? This last part, I know some people in here can testify. Don't get up and start running around the room hooping and hollering just yet. It's coming. At the end of this story, right after Joseph's in charge and his family comes to see him, it's a beautiful thing because he gets reunited with his dad, and he's able to help his family live and move them to Egypt and bless them with all kinds of different things. God just brings it together so good, doesn't he? All that stuff and all that trials that someone could read up to that point and think, man, this poor guy, like, why would God do that to him? Right? It wasn't God doing it to him. This was all a setup for this major event that was coming at the end of the road, but we can't see that far. Only God can. And so it's kind of funny because at the end of the story, Joseph's dad dies. And then all of a sudden the brothers start getting scared, like, oh, Joseph's going to come back at us for revenge when we put him in that pit all those years ago. We sold him into slavery. Dad's gone. Now maybe Joseph's going to have us all executed or something. And so they begged him, like, please don't do anything bad to us. Have mercy on us, Joseph. Don't take us out. Man, I love Joseph's response in Genesis chapter 50, verse 20. Last verse on there says, but as for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good in order to bring it about as it is this day to see many people alive. There was no malice in his heart. Joseph didn't have to take revenge on anybody because he already realized what God was trying to show him the whole entire time. You meant evil against me, but that's okay because God turned it around for good. Right? All these obstacles came against me and I was jailed for no wrongdoing whatsoever, but that's okay because God turned it around for good. Every single bad thing that happened to me, Joseph is saying, in my life, God turned it around for good. And guess what? He did it to bring it about as it is this day. Hundreds of thousands of people had their lives saved. I was finally in a position to impact my own family and so many others besides that. Because of all the bad stuff that happened to me that the enemy tried to throw at me, God turned it around for good. I know some people in here have to know what I'm talking about. Have to. I want you to think about that. Like your whole life, every setback, everything that happened to you that wasn't your fault, all the obstacles that the enemy tried to throw in your way to stop you from getting right here, right now, to stop you from connecting with God, right? All those things that occurred, God turned it around for good because you're still here. God still has a purpose for you. And if anything, I believe that stuff happened because now you have a heart to help other people because of it. Now you're in a position to be there for so many other people because of it. Please don't think that just because I have some horrible story that I'm the only person that's in a position to go share my story with someone else that's struggling. I can go into jails and I can go into all these places and they relate right to me because I've done the same things, done the same drugs in the same places and had the same bad things happen and horrible atrocities that some of you have never experienced before. Right? I can blow your mind with some stories I have. But please don't think that that only qualifies me to go share my story with somebody else. You could have something that happened to you when you were a child that maybe someone else had happened to them as well, and you were able to overcome that. You were finally able to forgive somebody that really hurt you along the way. You were able to deal with all those PTSDs and things that happened to you, and there's someone else that's struggling with that exact same story. There's someone else that needs to hear whatever piece in your life, something bad happened to me, or I had these obstacles, or whatever it is. Even if you think it's insignificant, it's not, because I promise you there's millions of people that are struggling with the exact same problem that you had in your lifetime, right? But you got through it. God helped you to find a way. You were able to move past it. And someone needs to hear that, right? So I believe for us, it doesn't matter what comes against us, right? God will turn it all around for good. And this was all intended to prepare us to do some good in this world. Because I believe that's what we're all called to do. There's some people that God put in your path. You may even think it's silly, but there's some people in your neighborhood. There's some people at your doctor's office. There's some people that see you when you go shopping. I don't know what it is, right? But there's people that God put in your path that only you can reach. May not be able to show up into your neighborhood and go knock door to door with the tattoos hanging out. They might call the police on me before they open the door for me. Right? But you could, because they know you. You're their neighbors. They've already seen you around. They see you smile a lot. They see there's something different about you. They see your car's not there on Sunday morning. Maybe God's just waiting for you to say something to them. Maybe God put them in your path for a reason so that you can reach out and you can share the things that God has done for you and let them know that the same exact thing can happen for them as well. So I encourage you to take some time to pray about that. I'll close it up. Are we all being good stewards with the things that God gave us? I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about time, talking about resources, talking about the mission that he gave us. I'm wrapping it up. I know some of you got to go. I'm wrapping it up. I encourage you to think about it this week. And I think there's a lot that we could get out of that story that we just heard together. So I'm going to pray over us. God, thank you so much for having us in this room, for not being done with us yet. Like there's a purpose for each and every one of us, God, but you brought us all together for a special purpose for what this church has going on, for the missions that this church is involved with, for ultimately reaching people and showing them that their problem they've been trying to fix all by themselves their whole entire life, that's something that only you can fix, and we can be that person, God, to point them back to you and share with them how you can be the person to fix that for them. God, I pray this message was used and it hit each of us on an individual basis, Lord, exactly what we needed to hear. And I pray more than just hearing it, that we leave today and we start putting it into play upon walking out of here. And I just want to thank you for the things you're doing, not in this church, not only in this church, but in this city, God, in this county, in this state, in this nation, God. We know you're moving in the background, all this craziness. And God, I want to thank you for just always being there for us and continuing to guide us and lead us in the place you want us to go. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you, guys.